but it seems things won't turn out perfectly when you want them to. And there is one thing you can do. You can sit home back and let the day roll by. Don't you worry and don't you cry, darling. You know we can't always win. We can try. Hold on tight.
This is Return to Health with renowned women's health physician, research scientist, and the author of Awakening Athena, Dr. Kenna Stevenson. Now for the next few minutes, join Dr. Stevenson as she explores health issues and answers that can return you to the days of sound medicine and practical strategies for your own health. It's Return to Health. Well, here we are again with Return to Health and Dr. Kenna Stevenson. How are you doing today, Doctor?
Very well, Mike. Thank you.
Listen, our topic this time is really an interesting one, and you've titled it Dining In versus Dining Out. And you know, we've almost come to a place in our country where we think we have to go out to eat. We just don't eat at home very much anymore, unless it's snack foods or comfort foods, as we've talked about.
That's right. What we've seen over the last 3 decades is a strong trend in which families are dining out more than they're dining in.
When you say dining out, and that means going to a fast food place for most folks, or going to a restaurant, or?
Dining out would include all of those types of experiences. So eating at a concession stand in a ballpark, eating in a fast food restaurant, eating in a sit-down restaurant, or any meals that are pre-processed.
Well, I hadn't even thought about a concession stand, because many families are so involved in Little League or football or who knows what that they just grab them all up in the car and they're going to have a hot dog when they get down to the ballpark.
That's right. So we have this pattern of grab it, zap it, and run, and families eating on the go as they try to struggle to meet everyone's needs with the modern challenges and time demands.
So you'd say that some of the reasons for all of these differences than the past, when people did sit down at home more often, is our lifestyle, and people have more choices today. If we go back 100 years ago, there weren't too many restaurants in rural areas, and most Americans lived in rural areas. They didn't live in the cities. And some of those restaurants might only be open on the weekend, and so people had to eat at home. So the phenomenon of the fast food may have contributed to some of the problems that we have, because for a fairly reasonable cost, somebody could be in the fast food business and have a restaurant even in a small rural town. There's almost always somewhere now you can get some kind of fast food.
Scientists believe that that trend has certainly played a role as it relates to the convenience and affordability of dining out today.
So some of that eating out is the very problem that we're going to face. So what are some guidelines for frequency of eating out and how it affects our health?
Well, our concerns are related to both children and adults, and what happens with their health when they dine out more than they dine in. And some recent studies have shown that children who frequently eat out score worse on measures of cardiovascular disease than children that eat at home. And what we saw in these children, and this included second graders, fifth graders, eighth graders, and 11th graders, so from the primary grades all the way up to high school, is that kids that ate out more had higher blood pressure, they had lower levels of HDL, which is the good cholesterol that protects against heart disease, and they also had higher insulin levels. Also, they tended to be more sedentary, that is, less active, exercise less, and they drank almost twice as much soda and other soft drinks as compared to children that were eating at home more.
So you would say that eating at home is really good because you can control the quality of the nutrition. But for some folks, they just have to eat out. I mean, it's just the way our lifestyle is and the way things are today. So are there some tips, some things that people can think about when they're going to eat out to help them be eating healthy? Are there things they need to think about?
Well, one of the alarming trends that I've seen in some families in my practice is the tendency to take everybody to an all-you-can-eat buffet. And I think that's one of the worst choices that families can make.
It's always been my favorite choice, though, because you can just keep right on eating.
Well, it is a popular choice, but from a health standpoint, I think that it's not the smartest choice, because then children and adults tend to eat more than they need and tend to eat the wrong types of foods. And so, for instance, instead of the all-you-can-eat buffet, going to a restaurant where you sit down and specific portions are served would be important. Also, choosing salads, say soup and salad, rather than a large entree would be helpful, and looking at how the meals are prepared. You want to go for things that are baked, boiled, rather than things that are deep fried. And choosing whole grain bread is also something people can do when they're dining out.
So some restaurants have been sensitive to this, and you can actually get really good food at some restaurants. But you have to sort of know where that is, right?
I think it's very possible. The American Heart Association has heart-healthy labels, and they partner with restaurants to designate heart-healthy choices on the menu.
Okay, so your philosophy is, and your advice is, when you eat out, at least know what you're eating and try to plan ahead and try to use whatever tools you can. Some menus will actually have the American Heart Association guidelines on them, and to do that. But let's get to the more basic question. How do we, with the time demands that we have, how can families today eat at home more often?
Well, what I share with families are some research studies. These were performed in middle school age children and then high school teenagers. And here's what we found, that in families that eat at home, those kids consume more fiber, more fruits, and more vegetables. And we've talked about how those nutrients are important for brain power.
Wow, so let's go back to that statistic, though. It's research has shown that a person that eats at home, that they eat more of those good nutrients.
Absolutely, and that's without being placed on any particular diet. They just naturally will eat more of these types of foods when they're eating at home.
So there's a benefit right there just in eating at home, just that you're going to eat better, period.
That's one benefit. Another study in teenagers looked at teens. They looked at their academic performance. They looked at their self-esteem, their social interactions as it related to being in trouble with the law or probation, and drug use, as well as physical activity. And here's what they found, that teens that ate at home 3 or fewer times per week seem to be in more trouble. And
wait a minute. You're suggesting that if a child eats at home more often, that it bubbles over into other parts of their life too?
This is what the research shows.
That's
and
amazing.
I've also observed this in my practice with families over the years. And kids that ate at home 5 or more times per week, that they had better grades, better self-esteem, better peer relationships. So if I tell a family, look, do you want your teenagers to succeed academically and socially? Do you want them to achieve more than you did, have more opportunities than you had? Almost every mother or father will say, yes,
absolutely,
I want that
sure.
for my child. And they can simply provide that just by eating at home 5 times a week. I think the frequency of 5 times is a good start. And it doesn't matter to me.
It can be any meal?
It can be any meal. It can be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It can happen Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because they may have after-school activities and other commitments, or mom and dad both work, and it's hard to do that during the week. But setting the first goal of at least 5 meals, a minimum of 5 meals at home a week, is very important. Now, there are also social benefits of eating at home together as a family.
Social benefits? What do you mean?
Well, when we all sit at the table together, what do, Mike?
We talk. Well, yeah. And we get to know each other.
That's right. And some families that haven't been used to eating at home are a little fearful to do this. And they may share a circumstance, well, the last time we tried to sit down and eat, we had a big fight, or there was a conflict. Because it is true that teenagers don't tend to interact much with family, but when they're sitting down at the table, then you've got them captive, and maybe mom or dad will take that opportunity to start giving them a lecture. And so I caution the parents to avoid discipline at mealtime and to make it a positive interaction. There's some research that goes back to the 1940s looking at this and kids' emotions at mealtime and what they eat and their benefit from the nutrients. And an excellent tool that I've recommended to families is called Food for Talk. Have you heard of this?
No, Food for Talk. That's a new one, Food for Talk.
Food for Talk is just a little game that can be played during the family meal. And I think that kids starting at age 5 would be able to participate.
Wow.
And so each family member answers a question, and you go around the table with it, and it's really lots of fun. And it's also a way for families to connect and get to know each other as it relates to family values. I've even had some families that they do the Food for Talk, and then their extended family that may live in other states or other cities also does the Food for Talk, and then they post the answers on the family website. And so this is a way that they're encouraging their extended family to gather at the table.
This is amazing. It's almost like dinner is therapy. I mean, that's amazing.
I believe it is, and I believe the research shows this. It's alarming to me that we are seeing this trend in kids that eat out 4 or more times a week. We're already starting to see changes even in second graders as it relates to their heart disease risk, their diabetes risk. And one easy practical way that we can combat this is by eating at home.
It's just by eating at home. That is amazing. And so listeners that are out there that are going, how can we make our family more together and really help our family grow in very positive ways? All you got to do is have dinner. It's about that simple.
That's right. And I do the cooking at my house. Who does the cooking at your house, Mike?
My wife.
All right. Well, usually it is the mother, the female figure in the household, that's responsible for the meals. And there are some very practical tools that I use. Why do I do it? Because I love my children. Why do people change? Because they love their children. People will do this, will be motivated, will be inspired, even though it may take a little more time, a little more discipline, a little more effort. It is worth it for the health of our children.
This is like mealtime is now not just mealtime. It's a really important family time.
Yes, good food is good medicine. Eating at home is good medicine. And so the tools that I think are extremely important, the first one is menu planning. So whatever day of the week, afternoon off, evening off, day off, that the person that does the cooking can sit down and think about the week, look at the calendar of activities, and plan the menus. Then you make the grocery list, and that way you know that you're going to have all the ingredients for the meals that you're going to prepare. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time to prepare the meals. There's wonderful cookbooks out there for 30-minute meals, 30-minute or less meals.
Lots of programs for that, too.
Sure. On the Food Channel, you can get wonderful ideas. The next is that you involve the whole family. Even a kindergartner can tear lettuce with her.
So the whole family prepares the food.
That's right. And you have another child setting the table. You have another child that's preparing the beverages. And you are teaching the kids to cook at the same time that you're preparing the meal.
You're teaching teamwork, you're teaching working together, you're teaching common goals. I never thought about all of these things that you're teaching just by having dinner at home.
Sure, and it's great for their math skills too, to work with the measuring cups and the measuring spoons.
Yeah, because the only math skills you get at the local hamburger place is, did we get the right change back? Right?
Perhaps. And then I also think that some things in the kitchen are very important. A crock pot. Do y'all have a crock pot?
Oh, yeah.
I do at least 2 crock pot meals a week.
That's amazing. So that's the one you can put it in there and you can go away, and when you come back, it's done.
That's right. For working women, they just simply put their dinner in the crock pot in the morning, turn it on, and when they get home, they'll be greeted by the aroma of a warm, hearty meal that's ready to be served.
Right there in the house.
That's
a strategy, too, isn't it?
That is a strategy. The next tool in the kitchen that I think is important is a bread machine.
So you get that smell of fresh baked bread.
I have not met many patients that don't like fresh baked bread.
Yeah.
And this is a way that you can get the whole grains into a very tasty type of snack or meal.
And you don't have to know a lot about bread baking. All you got to do is get the box and put the thing in there, and then you turn it on and leave.
It's pretty hard to fail at the crock pot and the bread machine.
Darn.
That's
and
right.
so what you've done is you've captured then the essence of making a home just in those two things. And when they walk in the door, they get all those smells, and they're going, oh, golly. In fact, they're going to say something that's very strange today. They're going to say, I'm glad I'm home. That is
Possibly.
awesome. See, all of a sudden, mealtime means something totally different here.
Yes, and then for families on the go, and we're one of those families, I think having an ice chest in the car is essential, because you can keep that cooler pack or the cooler loaded with bottled water, with nuts, with whole grain snacks.
You can
with
have your snacks with you.
That's right. And that way, when the kids in the back start the whining of, I'm hungry, instead of pulling into the fast food, you just simply open your ice chest and you can throw them a bottle of water and a couple of snacks, and then they're content. And
one of
they're
our
eating
earlier
smartly.
episodes, we talked about smart snacks, so I bet you have those in there, blueberries and nuts and all of those great things.
Absolutely. So being prepared is important.
So mealtime really is more than just a time to eat. It is a very critical foundational time, and it starts when they walk in the door after school. You can have that all set up so strategically they smell that smell and their brain begins to trigger and all those good things happen. What about families that want to start doing this but they haven't done it? And it's going to be a challenge because it's just tough to sit down together, and it's hard as a father to not say, now's my chance to tell my daughter what she's wearing wrong or whatever. What are your suggestions for families that really need to start this, but they have to start somewhere?
It's never too late to start. And we know that some of these changes that we see in the blood pressure and in the insulin and the glucose and even in the weight are reversible, especially in children. And so it's never too late to start changing your lifestyle and how you eat. But I do think it's important that you gain the support of the whole family. You talk about your goals as a family, your goals as a parent, and then the change does need to be delivered gradually. To just have an extreme change of we're never eating out again, we're always eating at home, no matter what, no family can survive something like that. But I set the goals with eating out 3 times or less, eating in 5 times or more. Those are good goals to start with. And then just something as simple as decreasing soda consumption in kids can be a very, very easy start for a lot of families. A lot of children, we find, are drinking sodas and other soft drinks, not just when they eat out, but also when they eat in.
Yeah.
And so reserving, say, a Coke or a soda only when they have a special restaurant meal, and then drinking water or low-fat milk when they're at home is a small way to start, but it can have benefits even in the first week or two. And as it relates to weight loss, as it relates to mood, concentration, academic performance, and sports performance.
Well, we've been talking with Dr. Kenna Stevenson, and we are talking about how to make your family healthier and happier by returning to these healthy practices. Who would have thought that eating in could be such a family thing and so critical? Certainly something that everyone should think about. Now, Dr. Stevenson, you have a great book that's available on Amazon.com. Tell us the title and how they can get a copy of that.
The title of my book is Awakening Athena, Rejuvenation, Restoration, and Resilience for Women. And I talk about the importance of nutrition in the book.
That's exciting. And you have a website, too, that you recommend that people can go to get a lot of this advice.
They can go to oldwayspt.org to learn about slow food as compared to fast food.
Slow food. Old Ways, www.oldways.pt.org, and that will help you get that slower lifestyle, which will be a happier one. And they can call you for the tip of the week, and all they have to do is call 903
668-5971. I would love to hear from our listeners and maybe about some of the changes they've made in their family and what they've noticed.
questions, just anything, and they get a tip all at one time.
Even recipes. I'm always looking for recipes.
Well, thank you very much. What a great program this has been on how to use eating at home and to enhance our family experience, just make us better all the way around. Thanks again for listening to Return to Health. You've been listening to Dr. Kenna Stevenson and Return to Health. Dr. Stevenson is a highly sought lecturer on a variety of health topics, including women and heart disease, obesity in America, resurrecting the power of touch, media health literacy, gender matters in American healthcare, and many more. Dr. Stevenson's book, Awakening Athena, is available on Amazon.com and at fine book resellers. For health tips or to leave a question for Dr. Stevenson, call 903-668-5971. That's 903-668-5971. Or on the web at www.awakeningathena.com. Join us next time as Dr. Stevenson shows us the way to return to health.